That was Colin Gow with our theme song, which he didn't write as our theme song, but nonetheless, we use it as our theme song
We
podcast.
officially licensed it.
We did officially license it in a very informal way. I am Steve Shoney. I'm the city manager for the city of Up Arlington, and I am joined by
Darren Schulman. I am the city attorney for Up Arlington and self-appointed Steve's sidekick.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You do know your roles in this organization.
There are people who have objected to that, but I embrace it.
I know it makes your dad mad every time we talk about it. And Mr. Schulman, I'm sorry, but it's too good of a gig. So we are joined today for the staff portion of this by someone who I'm not sure she always entirely bought into this concept.
I'm sure she entirely did not buy into the concept.
No, we make her a little nervous.
I was terrified.
We'll do our best to live up to that fear.
I think my fears will still be realized.
So we are joined today by Emma Speight, our Community Affairs Director.
Also the glue of the organization.
You
also known as Emma the Brit.
Emma,
I am now a Viking in my horse world.
Brits
Emma the Brit.
So wait a minute, Vikings are not from Great Britain though.
Well, they invaded, so
I know. I watched. What was that show that I watched on
Vikings?
Netflix? No, it wasn't Vikings. It was. Anyway, I'll look it up while we're talking.
A very good friend of mine runs a Viking village in Ireland, so
really?
We can go and play with Vikings anytime you want.
Why are we talking about city stuff when we could talk about Viking villages in Ireland?
Do you have a whole Viking get up? Do you do this?
I do
LARP
not dress
thing?
up as a Viking.
Okay.
She does, however.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Cool.
So, yeah.
She and Darren would be good friends.
Does
she go to Comic-Con like Darren?
No.
Even Viking LARPers look down on Comic-Con. She wouldn't be caught dead there. What are you talking about, Steve?
No, she's not that much of a person who enjoys those kinds of things. So we do have Emma on to talk about something, which is, though all of our listeners clearly know the best way to find out about what's going on in the city, which is to listen to this podcast.
You mean all 62 of them?
Darn it, she's got the stats. I think you missed some decimal points there.
All 62 million listeners. No, so though everyone who, clearly the most well-informed members of our community in Upper Arlington have found the best way. If you're listening to this, you've found the best way to find out what's going on in Upper Arlington. But if you want something that's maybe a little bit more concise, a little bit more direct,
more on point,
and more, frankly,
maybe more accurate.
Yes. Emma and Brian do some other things to get the word out about what's going on in the city, and so we invited Emma on to talk about what are all those alternative.
And I did bring some statistics with me because I think it's worth sharing. In our June 24th City Insight e-newsletter, which goes to about 14,000 emails and change, give or take, we included the print version, an online version of the print version of the newsletter, and it was opened and read by 266 people. That particular edition, your podcast, got 102 people, which actually isn't bad.
Print is not dead.
But we're
it's not print; it's electronic.
We're way ahead of you. So, saying.
But we're with Draymond Green and the new media, and we're not.
We're the new media.
We're the new media.
People standing or sitting in front of a microphone is new media.
We don't subscribe to your old media statistics and ways of.
There's other engagement.
And if you look at it on a depth and quality of engagement, I think the depth
here's
and
my
quality.
Concern.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Emma spouted some statistics and has given a preference for communication. And you described this yourself. You're British. You have a cool accent. You sound smarter. You're giving more gravitas to that.
She does sound.
I just have to say it, and people believe it.
It's not and in this case, it's not just the accent. There is some fact to it. So, one of the things that we constantly struggle with at the city is, how do we find the best way to meet people where they are, provide them communication where they want it, how they want it. Do me a favor and real quick walk through all the different ways that we try and proactively get in front of our residents and stakeholders?
Sure, I would say more is more. That's been our approach, and I think it works. We're trying to meet people where they want to be getting their information. So we do a publication, UA Insight, 6 times a year. We've got a wonderful partnership with the schools and the library on that, where we're sharing information in one publication. We all put that out online as well, so people can access it in different ways. And that goes to every home in UA.
So that hits like the big things that are going on in the city.
Yeah,
right?
It gives you the event calendar, updates on council actions, big news for the schools, different projects. Obviously, we followed the community center for years through that publication, and you can follow a trail of how that issue has progressed over time. Then we have our e-newsletters. The city version goes out weekly, and as I said, has over 14,000 people who are receiving that. Usually we have a response rate or a reader rate of about 50%. So that's ahead of most email outreach efforts, so I'm pretty proud of that. We've got very extensive social media program that Brian is helping to transform to the next level. We've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube channel, a Flickr account for photographs.
There's some LinkedIn stuff, at least for jobs. I've seen LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're constantly trying new things, different ways of getting information out there. We
no TikTok though, right?
No TikTok, and that, like a podcast, is something I'm a little bit concerned about.
Well, I will tell you, at least with me, I can't speak to Darren because Darren is can be a little unpredictable.
Yeah.
Don't expect to see me on TikTok anytime soon.
Podcast is as cutting edge as I think
Okay, good.
I can get right now.
Yeah.
Emma, Brian, and I are all breathing a sigh of relief at that.
As are all of our
Absolutely.
listeners and my dad.
So, I mean, we're very proactive in the information we put out. We have kind of a structural approach. If we're working on a project that we know we need to reach out to as many people in the community as possible, we put every tool to work to do that. If it's a smaller project that maybe is neighborhood focused, then we'll do something as simple as a mailing to a couple of streets just to let them know what's going on. So we scale it up and down depending on the issue. We know council is very much behind a proactive communications program, and I think it's worked. I mean, you see statistically we have a very engaged community, and in part it's because we're constantly engaging with them and wanting to get information to them, but then also wanting to hear back from them, and it helps projects become better.
So the correct answer to this could be podcast, but what is the next like evolution in your communication with the residents? Like, what's the next big thing? You mentioned revolution.
Well, I see you two hitting the streets with pizza and knocking on doors. I mean, that's pretty much what's left.
Yeah, and I've joked about the only thing left to do is, because sometimes we'll get people who say, well, I had no idea. I'm like, okay, well, we've put it out in all these different things that you've put on, and I'll sometimes joke that the only thing left for me to do is to get a side gig with DoorDash, and here's your Kung Pao, can I talk to you about the community center? And
can you imagine if you ordered a pizza and like Steve and I walked up in our sweaters and handed you a pizza and like a flyer?
This is when people
actually
would
is
start
an intriguing idea.
People would, that box for contactless delivery. Yeah, we would be
Just
getting
leave
a
it.
lot of those. That would up that on DoorDash. I can guarantee that.
As long as there's pizza in the box, and or not half-eaten pizza.
I definitely have to taste it to make sure it's
It
safe.
might be a couple pieces. I mean, that would be a community service on our part.
Well,
too.
Darren is known for being a food hound in the office. Whenever there's donuts or treats in the
Anything.
building anywhere, he will be found in that.
I love celebrating my coworkers' birthdays. Happy birthday to me.
Okay, so I remember before I took this job, and I was just your normal, average, everyday resident who had too much going on in my life. It would have been really helpful for somebody to say to me, if you want to stay up on the big stuff, here's where you go, and if you want to make sure that you're getting announcements about, I don't want to say emergencies, but for lack of a better term, emergencies. Okay, what's the channel that folks should pay attention to for? I want to kind of know what's the big stuff going on, and then how do I make sure that I know if the stuff is hitting the fan somewhere in the city?
I think just from a timing perspective, the e-newsletter is a key component for keeping up on things. Everything we do is being pushed out through that e-newsletter on a weekly basis. So it's not only timely, but it's accurate. It's going to give you the information and then direct you to the website, for example, for additional information. For emergency, I would say really our social media is probably the best. Police rely on Twitter for putting out emergency messaging if and when it happens, very rarely, fortunately for us. But that's probably the best place to stay up to speed on things.
And so if somebody wanted to sign up for the e-newsletter, they, of course, could send something to either fanmail@ua.oh.net or hatemail@ua.oh.net. No, I had an
It's
extra
just UAOH.
Yeah, sorry.
Dude, all the mail's going. Now we know where
I
all the
know.
fan mail went.
I know. Well, you notice I got hate mail wrong. So fanmail@uaoh.net, hatemail@uaoh.net. Or is there another email address or another way to sign up for our communications that would be more efficient?
Basically, on our website, you've got a Connect section that is everything that our office does. It's under the Departments and Services area, and you can go there and you see the whole menu of options, all of the social media platforms that you can follow us on, as well as the e-newsletters for signing up for those. Okay. And basically, if you come to a meeting and you sign in as an attendee at one of our public meetings on a special issue, I typically try to steal those sign-in lists and add people's emails.
Well, now all our meetings are going to be jam-packed because people are like, I want to get these e-newsletters. I got to show to all these meetings.
That would imply that people were actually listening to this podcast.
There's a lot of problems with
that.
As we know, this will maybe result in about 2 people signing up for.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
that's
two
more
than we had, so that's good.
Yeah, low expectations, key to my success. What else would you want the good people of Upper Arlington to know about the best ways to kind of not only find out about what's going on, but when something's going on, kind of how do you really better engage with the city? Because you don't just do communications, right? It's
right.
You really are. Your role is much more about being that community affairs, community relations. How do we kind of interact with our residents, not just push information to them?
We are heavily involved with so many community organizations. We've got a group called Network UA that meets once a month and kind of shares updates on what's going on with different civic groups, and we brainstorm. We oftentimes new ideas come from those meetings where we start new programs. One thing that we have kind of retired since it first began, but we were doing a volunteer UA program for many years where we had an expo, and that was a great way for people to network and get involved in things that they wanted to be involved with. Just reach out to us. It's, a community is successful when the community is engaged. And
so if someone is really just digging your accent and they just want to call and talk to you, would you talk to them?
Absolutely. Being conscious of my time. But yes, sure.
Darren, I know you do that. She can only handle so many people that want to just listen to her.
I will just walk over to her office and have a conversation because I'm like, I just love talking to Emma.
And because it makes you think that you're in the room with someone smart.
I believe anything Emma says, and usually you're actually
well. The
correct,
other thing that's really cool about Emma is she sprinkles in small Spanish phrases and makes a surprising number of references to Coolio in just day-to-day conversation, which
you put that with the accent, it just sounds so genius.
It just doesn't work that out. It's not something you expect, but it works.
I have my own sing-songy way of communicating with people, and it seems to work.
And she's very honest. So I said to her one time, Emma, everyone with a British accent sounds really smart. So when you're from, England, do you think we with American accent sound smart? And she's like, no. It does not work the other way.
You sure she was referring to all Americans or just?
I know it was me.
So, well, listen, Emma, thanks for coming on briefly and putting up with our little project here.
Sure, and I know you reserve these questions for the people that are real guests on this show, But I do want
We
to
are
show
resident
my...
focused.
I know. What would I change?
Yes, what would you change?
Okay.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Gotta go. See you. Bye.
All right, then.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
Well-
you can do it. We'll take it.
As you know, I'm a fond equestrian, a lover of horses and all things. And as we sit here in this building looking across at the OSU golf course, there's a lot of green space over there that could be the most amazing central park for Upper Arlington.
Mm-hmm.
And it could include an equestrian center. We could probably squeeze a business center in there as well, so it could help generate some revenues. So I really think we need to take over the golf course.
I'm just relieved, although that might be a controversial take. If I'm just relieved she didn't say cancel the podcast or get rid of Steve and Darren, which is what I thought she was going to say.
I was totally. That's why I thought we were going to just cut her off, is because I thought she was going to say, yeah, no more podcasts and no more Steve and Darren.
I'm willing to take all the people who hate horses, like hate mail for that, just so she didn't cancel us.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not the people who hate. It's just we're going to have all the golfers around town.
It's a good idea. Fertilizer for the parks.
Headline:
I mean,
City announces takeover of golf course. Rioting ensues.
But the really funny
it
thing,
harkens back to the old days when there used to be farmland here. And
what's really funny to me is that we've gone through like 7 months of this without saying anything really remotely that controversial.
No, which is Emma's fear.
you get
that we
the
would do that.
communications
Emma's on
director
here
on.
for 15 minutes. She's like,
Hostile
I
takeover.
want to do away with the OSU golf course.
Think about all the constituencies we just alienated.
And in
For
order
a higher purpose.
for horses.
Yes.
And then tries to use the generation of horse manure as
It's a plus.
As the plus. So
This is why you like having me around.
and this is why you're running the community affairs department and not the development department.
Yes.
So I do want to thank you, Emma, for coming on and also supporting us in our little fun project that we do.
You've been very understanding.
You have been very helpful and kind of.
It's quite endearing watching you two kind of do your brainstorming and think about who your guests are going to be and how it's such a focus of your day. It's quite lovely.
I feel moderately patronized.
That was kind of one of those compliments, but it wasn't really.
The back of the hand was kind of
The
cocked.
problem
But it
is
was said with an English
It's
accent.
English
was.
accent, so I'm not sure if it was
See,
real or not. You can't
see,
tell.
Darren's completely. She could say anything to Darren, and he'd be like, "Oh, that sounded so nice."
Yeah, she's really happy about how much we
It's-
prepared.
He just
like our little show.
has visions of Mary Poppins. Is I think what it is. It's like
Now I'm going to see like Emma floating away at an umbrella after the show.
all right. Speaking of thank yous, we have Samir coming on, and Samir talked about a number of great things that he does with the triathlon that he runs and the good community work that he does. And he walked out of here, and as soon as the microphones went off, he did what we do all the time, which is say, "Oh shoot, I forgot to thank a couple people." And on his behalf, I do want to make sure that we point out that he did want to thank the McIntyre and Rigo families for the great work that they do with him on the Berkshire Triathlon. And the most important thing, and I don't know whether he did it or not, but I do, in the interest of all married men, he wanted to make sure that he pointed out that his wife is a huge help in this. And so I'm pretty sure he said it, but he said, and as he was leaving, he's like, "Hey, just in case, make sure that I thank my wife." So Amelie, he really, really wanted to make sure that he thanked you. So with that, we're going to take a little break and be back talking about the Berkshire Triathlon.
Podcast. Yeah, we're doing a podcast. Click the link, listen to our podcast. Yeah.
Again, that was our good friend of the show, former participant, interviewee from the show, Colin Gall, doing his podcast song. We are here with Samir Dahman.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, Samir, you've said you've listened to the podcast a couple times, and so we start with a few questions, but actually what we normally start with is a real introduction of our guest to tell why he's here, and I'm just running into it.
You're just so excited for these questions.
I am so I really am kind of excited about our questions.
All right.
We've got Samir on because he's a resident of the community, and he does something really great for the community, which is he is the leader of the effort to do the Berkshire Triathlon. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about his day job, which is being a corporate lawyer. Oh, sorry.
There's nothing wrong with lawyers, Steve.
It took me. It's early on a Friday morning. I fell asleep there for a second. Then we're going to get into just kind of chatting about some other stuff. But we always start with our guests with a thing we call Start Bench Cut. So
and we have two this time because we
we're
have
going
a
to
nice
have you
one.
do two. Yeah.
And
We got, well, they're both appropriate. So somewhat appropriate. So, okay, you organized the Berkshire Triathlon. This one's easy.
Yep.
triathlons have 3 events, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
what are they?
Swim, bike, run. In that order.
Swim.
That's the order you like it in?
That's the official order. I didn't make it up.
No, so
which
if you,
one- okay, so
if
you
there's
can
only, if there's, go ahead, please.
There's only, okay, so one you can only do, like that's the only event you can do. Second one is you can do it like once, and the third one you can never do it again.
I'm so lost.
You can do one event.
Yes.
That's the only event you can ever. If you pick swimming,
Oh,
all you
if
can
I
do
had
is
to
swim.
pick one?
Yeah, then one you get to do it one time, but then it's gone, and then one you can never do again. It's gone forever. One of the events, one of the 3
Man,
legs.
that's so tough because
You love them all. They're your babies.
I do. I like swimming. It's a different experience than like naturally walking on the ground. Biking is fun because it's like fast and you can't really think when you're biking. You just have to concentrate on not hitting something or falling over. And running is just so easy. You can do it anywhere, anytime. It's quick. So yeah, I'm gonna pass.
No, one of them's got to go. One of them's got to go. I'll tell you. I'll give
I
you
can
my
never
answer.
do one of them again.
Never do one of them again.
When you're just done with.
I would let biking go, I guess.
And then which one would you do all the time if you? This is like your event from now on.
Man, I guess running.
Running's useful because, like, let's say you're running late to something, you can run. Like, that's
Yes, you
probably
could
a
do
good-
that. And
even-
also you can listen to music when you run and you could do it anywhere. I mean, weather doesn't matter. Location doesn't matter.
I feel bad for biking though. It got cut.
Yeah, but it's a little more complicated, right? Like you have to have a bike that works well. For example, my bike tire keeps blowing because there's some mysterious problem with it. And you got to have decent weather, right? You can't go in like the freezing because then you literally get frostbite. And you got to have the right place to do it. The Olentangy Trail is fantastic, although it's got, on a bicycle you can really feel even just a little bit of like a wrinkle in the pavement. And I don't like biking on roads because it's really easy to get super injured with cars because they're heavy and they go fast. So.
And I'm not a biker or actually an athlete or a person who does anything, but are there special bikes you use?
Oh, yeah.
It's not just like there's like shoes and stuff you need.
Yeah,
and stuff?
yeah. I mean, there are like your typical like neighborhood bike. You can use that for a triathlon, but they're just not built for it, so they're a lot slower and it's tougher. And then also, like you could use a road bike just fine, but road bikes and triathlon bikes are only slightly different. It's really just like the handlebars, because a road bike is typically meant actually for climbing hills.
Really?
Yeah, like if you look at like the Tour de France, the tough parts like the climbs, not just going straight on a flat surface. Whereas like triathlon bikes, because the event includes many other things, they're like, let's just make this simple and just go straight and fast. And so they're called time trial bikes actually. And the handlebars are like in front of you so that you can get tucked in tight so there's less drag. And you just try and go as fast as you can straight. So yeah, but they both have like, they're called clip-in shoes.
Yeah, that's the part that makes me nervous because you're like, I totally fall
Yeah,
over.
yeah, I've fallen off a couple times before. Like usually it's when you're going slow and you're trying and you forget to get your foot out, and then you kind of have to like uniquely turn your foot, and if you don't, you're stuck to the bike, and if you're falling, you're just bonk on the ground.
Before we hit you with our second start bench cut, because I want to make sure we warm him up and he's happy with us. Delaware has a half triathlon, the half Ironman.
Half Ironman, yeah.
So can you tell us what are the distances that we're doing for your event?
So yeah, ours is closest to what's called a sprint distance triathlon. People think that it's like you have to go as fast as you can, but it's just the name of the event. It's like a 750 meter swim, which would be like 15 laps in a regular pool.
Too many.
Yep. 12-mile bike ride, which is a lot easier than you'd think.
Still too long.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and then a 3-mile run. That a half Ironman is much, much farther. It's 1.2 mile swim, so that's like 40 laps in a pool versus 15, and then it's a 56-mile bike ride, which takes, if you're going 20 miles an hour on a bike, which is really fast on a bike, that would be like 2.5-hour bike ride alone, and then it's a half marathon run, so 13.1 miles. So it would take like 6-ish hours for like someone like someone who's like involved in triathlons but isn't like actively competing to do that. So
yours seems much more attainable.
Hold on a second up there. Just for the record, you talk all the time about how you're a lawyer so you can't do math. There was a lot of math there that he just did pretty effectively.
Yeah, he did some translations from kilometers to miles. There's some impressive calculations going on.
And
yours
actually
seems much more attainable though than a triathlon.
Oh yeah, and ours is really, it's called a triathlon, like a TRY. So just like give it a try. The unique thing about triathlons, or one of the unique things, is the swim portion, which is typically in like a natural body of water, like a lake or something. And typically, though not always, everybody starts at once. Like you might have seen pictures of like a bunch of athletes standing at the edge of the water, and they just go in, and it's...
Isn't it kind of like mass chaos because you're like on top of people and stuff?
Yeah, and like while I'm a fairly high-strung person, I don't get like panic attacks or anything like that, and but I have like in doing a couple like competitive triathlons, like been in the water and like gotten disoriented and like almost had like a panic attack where I had to stop, because not only are people on top of you, you're getting like kicked in the face and you can't see the bottom typically. Whereas like ours is in a pool and we go like in order, so it's like, okay, you're going, and then you're going, and then you're going. So, and if you get uncomfortable, you can just stand up. So that's kind of like the difference, is that it's sort of like how Peloton is a ride, not a race. It's like, hey, give it a try, not win.
All right. So part of the reason that you're able to do the math is, as I recall from reading your bio, you have a degree in economics.
Yep.
From the University of Michigan.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
And you did tell us, not only did you go there, you like University.
I love the University of Michigan,
so
and
you realize,
all things Michigan.
You realize that coming here now, I'm neutral in this battle.
Although you spent some time in Ann Arbor.
I did my first year of law school in Michigan.
Oh, congratulations!
So I kind of don't hate you. But
where'd you go after that? Harvard.
Harvard, yeah.
Wow, that's funny that was like a sarcastic comment.
It's sarcastic, and that was actually right.
Yeah.
But so you do know that you're in this kind of Columbus area,
yes.
So you're going to have to eat a little bit of crow.
Not this year.
No.
So we talked. You heard me in the intro talk about Colin Gal, who runs Colin's Coffee.
Yeah,
that's Watershed. It's rumored that he has very close ties, extremely close ties, to a band called the Dead Schembechlers.
Oh yeah.
And so we're going to give you 3 titles from the Dead Schembechlers. And you have to rank. I know you don't know the songs,
and you won't like any of the titles.
Well, I don't know, maybe, but you have to tell us. Let's do this as one. You have to get tattooed.
Okay.
On you. The other you have to like read out loud somewhere, and then the third one you can ignore. Okay. Here are 3 titles of Dead Schembechler songs. I Hate Michigan. M Means Moron. And Michigan Stadium is a pile of
I told you this was the not nice part of the show.
So,
which one are you getting tattooed on?
Which one are you getting tattooed? And I'll run back through them.
You just want to say them again.
I just want to make... I told Brian he was only going to have to do 1 beep. I'm going to make him do 2. Actually 3, because then you're going to have to say the third one at least once. I Hate Michigan. M Means Moron. And Michigan Stadium is a pile of
I can't answer that. Don't be mad at me.
The uncomfortable level is worth it, even if he does not answer. And the fact that you told me he had to have one tattooed on him was like an extra level of salt there. Like you couldn't just say which one is funny. You're like, which one is permanently on your body, on your arm.
So you're not okay. We won't make you answer those.
I'm sorry.
It was an opportunity to give. To just have a little bit of fun, and we had a little bit of fun, but
that's okay. 42-27.
The advantage of going Northwestern is I don't have to worry about any of these rivalries.
Right.
We just lose to both of you every year. So
yeah.
I've thought about that. Like the stress that's associated with a fall Saturday is totally unnecessary. Instead of it just being entertainment, which it truly is, right? Like things on TV that you watch are entertainment, right? Like you're just doing it to pass the time because you're interested. But we put so much emphasis on it, and we treat it like it's something more than really what it is. It's just entertainment. So
here's the genius of my life versus your life. So I assume Michigan still does this. Ohio State definitely does. Every year you expect you're going to win a title, or at least a Big Ten title. And if you don't, if you lose that one game, your whole season is like sad.
Yeah, you're looking at me like I'm a big Ohio State fan. I'm not.
Every Northwestern win is a gift.
Yeah.
If we win one, I'm like, this was came out of nowhere.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, it's that's the healthy mentality.
Still makes you sad when you lose, but
Yeah.
But it's finding joy.
Yeah.
It's all about finding
Exactly.
joy.
and Michigan has the joy this year. You're right.
This
You're a
year.
Cincinnati guy.
Yeah, I'm a Cincinnati guy. I went to OU, so the Ohio State thing. It really was an adjustment for us. Honest to goodness, one of my kids, it was like when they were learning to speak. My wife teaches over at OSU, and we had the kids at the OSU daycare, and it was like mommy, dada, IO, literally.
Yeah.
In terms of the words they could speak.
Yeah.
It's the kind of indoctrination that happens in this town is frightening. So you've got kids.
3.
Do your kids root for Ohio State, or do they root for Michigan, or do they not care?
They're pretty neutral. I mean, I really tried hard with our oldest, and I don't think it backfired, but also she's like a person that wants to please everyone. Mm-hmm. So, my wife is an Ohio State fan. And so she doesn't want to like make mom sad or something like that. So
can you get one of those jerseys that like?
We had someone made one for us, or we found it on eBay or something. So that was cool. Our son. So after that experience, I was like, you know what, man, just let it go. Whatever. You can like them, and they can like whoever they want. And then, like, to my surprise and joy, our son has just been like, I love Michigan. This is the coolest thing in the world, and like, that's cool too. So.
I will just say Northwestern is accepting fans if they wanted to really go out on their own.
I would be so happy if anyone in our family went there. It's a great school and a great city.
It turns out great graduates and great people,
with one notable exception.
99.9% of the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's
mistakes are made. In any process. So now that we've grilled you about Michigan and Ohio State, we talked about the triathlon.
Yeah.
More details. When is it? When can people learn more about it? All those kind of things.
Yeah. So it's annually in June. The date kind of varies, but we try and do it the first half of June. The venue is Devon Pool and Jones Track, and then the bike route typically goes out to the Olentangy Trail up Guilford, and then comes back. And it benefits Ronald McDonald House and Flying Horse Farms. The past 2 years have been really good. We haven't cut the checks this year yet because we're still paying some expenses and stuff, but we'll be paying over $50,000 to those two charities in these 2 years. Mm-hmm.
What got you into doing this? Because you said we introduced you as a lawyer, and I know that I'm one, and I sit at my desk all day. I'm not doing triathlon.
I sit at my desk a lot too and talk on the phone and whatnot. But I don't know, like 10-ish years ago, so I play hockey a lot too. That's probably my favorite sport, and I was starting to get into like triathlons a little bit, but I didn't want to like register for any, and because it involves a lot of coordination and training and blah blah blah. So I started doing them on my own, just like I'd go to the pool and swim and just ride around town for the distances and whatnot. And so I was telling my hockey buddies, I'm like, oh, this is really fun. You guys should, like, you feel great. The sprint distance takes about an hour and a half, so it's longer than like a quick jog, but it's not so grueling that like a marathon afterwards you're in pain and dead. So my hockey buddies and I started doing them, and I was like, you know what, so we get hungry afterwards because you're exercising, so we would go grab food and have a good time, and then we were like, oh, we should turn this into a party. And then we were just like sitting around thinking about it, and it was like, well, you've been fortunate enough to have opportunities and health and all that kind of stuff. So instead of just thinking about like having fun or doing something for yourself, why don't you like do something good with it? And we just looked around and we're like, well, there's a children's hospital. What's more good than that? And so we were like, yeah, just show up to our house and do this thing and bring a check for $50 to Children's Hospital.
You really just kind of started organically like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
I was right there with you till you said, I thought it'd be cool to like just run for a couple hours and do something like. What? How did that get into your head? I'd be like, I can play some video games.
I was actually going to call you out on all the guys that I know who play hockey. It wasn't just food after doing.
I mean, people would have some beers and stuff like that, but because we used to have like drinks and stuff like that when we did it at our house. Like it was in our backyard for the first couple of years, and then there's too much traffic on our street, and it was a mess cleaning up, and we just didn't have the capacity. So we moved over to Mallway, and then now it's at Jones, and it's not appropriate to have alcohol. And it's really turned into like more of a kids event than a grown up event. So.
Well, I have to say that I am impressed by this event because it's just outside my realm of I think I could do it.
You could totally do it.
But if I could do it, I could say I did a triathlon. Yeah. That would be cool.
You could totally do it. Darren makes fun of how we all make fun of Darren just on principle, but he kind of makes fun of how little he does. But he's gone and he's done like our firefighter fitness test. He plays basketball, all this stuff. He does none of it well, but he does it.
I guess I would say if I set out to do it, the fear of embarrassment would carry me through, but the swim part, like I don't have like the famous strokes. Can you just kind of like make it? Yeah. I mean, I can swim, but I can't do the like.
You really could. It's really fun, to be honest, because it requires no skill, right? Like many sports require like technique and stuff like that. There's not much technique in running. You just like get from here to there. Same thing with the other ones. So, and you could do it with friends like Steve. You could
Oh man!
Steve could do the swim and the run, and you could do the bike
with the sweaters on, and then we'll have Brian like hustling behind us on a bike with a boom mic, so he can record the show while we're.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So
this is not fun, just interesting.
Then that gets in the whole. I mean, besides the sweaters, what else do we wear for the swim and for the bike? Even I mean, are we going with the full? I mean, I've seen the triathlon. Or the Ironman, and
like the wetsuit thing.
Are we going wetsuit? Are we going
a couple
full brief? Or
I know what we're not doing. I won't even say it.
No, we won't go there. God, how on earth do I transition out of that dark hole?
Can we talk about your day job?
Yeah. I'm a lawyer. Represent mostly privately held businesses, typically in litigation. So, hey, you stole our stuff, or between partners that own a small privately held business. So like, hey, you were taking money out the side door, you were giving your people sweetheart deals or something like that. And so it's pretty entertaining, actually.
I think we might have the only two lawyers in Upper Arlington in the room right now.
Yeah, right.
I was like, what are you? I think I could throw something just randomly and probably hit someone. But
yeah, exactly.
So how'd you get into that? Now I'm going to get some geeky.
Oh my God.
How'd you get into that field? Because obviously
so random. It's just like the river of life. So went to college and had like a business degree, basically. I don't know how much time you guys have, but I have like that's not that entertaining of a story. Anyways.
No, it's even partially entertaining.
You've listened to our podcast. We're not that entertaining.
So like your junior year of college, you're applying for like big jobs and stuff like that. And I had a couple like consulting jobs, like, economic consulting. And it sounds really sexy when you're a college student, whatever.
But it's definitely not.
It's not. It's just like, hey, go sit in a, windowless office and like compute stuff.
That was my job coming out of grad school.
Yeah.
Fill out this massive spreadsheet that tells us how much we should be charging for outboard motors in Vanuatu.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
True story.
Yeah. So anyway, I had a couple really good interviews, and I had one with Ernst & Young in Chicago, and like on campus, right? So they followed up with me. They're like, hey, that was really great. We want to have you out to Chicago and blah, blah, blah. And this is in 2001, like right after the meltdown or the internet bubble. So they were like, yeah, we're going to have you out on Thursday, June 2nd or whatever. So, put that in my calendar. And this is before the, Outlook calendar days. And so my dad calls me on June 2nd, and he's like, where are you? And I was like, Dad, I can't talk right now. I'm busy preparing for my big interview tomorrow. And he's like, I just got a call from someone at Ernst & Young. I don't know how they found my number, but you're supposed to be there today. And I looked at the calendar, and it was like, that day it was like I got the day of the week and the number mixed up. And so I called them. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they're like, oh, it's fine.
We'll call you back.
We'll have you out. We'll have you out some other time, or like next week or whatever. And so I came out, and they were nice and gracious and stuff like that. But I think that was not a good look.
We need highly detailed analysis. Details are important,
Yeah.
but you forgot the
Yeah.
day.
So anyway, so then and right around that time, like they announced some huge layoff and stuff like that. So there was this college organization called ISEC, which is a French acronym that was put together after World War II to like exchange internships and entry level jobs so that countries wouldn't like go to war because people then understand each other better. So I got a job through that over in Taiwan, and I was doing like I was doing the CPI analysis, right? And so I was like, man, I really feel like I need a graduate degree of some sort to have a little bit more direction and say in what I do instead of just being a cog in the wheel. So I had no particular interest in legal work, but I thought, well, if I get an MBA, I could be a business person, but I don't even need an MBA to do that. There's no license requirement. But if I get a law degree, I could be a lawyer or a business person. So I guess I'll go to law school. And I was at that time I was kind of interested in like real estate because it just sounded interesting to me. So at my first job, I was looking at real estate stuff, which at the bottom of the totem pole is unbelievably boring. I mean,
maybe the second to bottom of the totem pole too.
Yeah.
A few totem links.
And so I just followed the river of life and got into litigation, which was a little bit more interesting because it was like adversarial, and stayed at big firms, and then had my own firm, and now I'm at a mid-sized firm now.
So what in that journey brought you to
you
said River of Life?
Yeah.
Brought you to Upper Arlington. How'd that all work?
Especially coming from Michigan,
yeah.
So you had to.
So
via Taiwan.
Applied to regional big schools and stuff like that, and got waitlisted at Michigan and got into Ohio State. And I was like, well, and I got into a couple other schools, and I was like, well, Ohio State's pretty good and it's close. And then people at Michigan were like, hey, if you just do decent at Ohio State, you can come in after your second year, after your first year. So I was like, cool, I'll go back home and it'll be great. And I got a really good job after my first year of law school, which was in like 2005 when the economy was like really booming, and it was like, wasn't quite Wolf of Wall Street, but it was really good times for the legal industry. And so as I do, I was like, well, I guess I'll just stick around. And right around my second year of law school, some folks that I play hockey with, I saw a guy wearing a coaching coat, and I was like, hey, if you need help, I used to coach goalies, so let me know. And he was like, well, actually, let's have you help out. And this was like a JV team. And I didn't know the neighborhoods of Columbus. I was just a grad student. So he was like, well, hey, guess what? There's a middle school team that really could use a coach because their coach just left or something. So you want to coach them? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I became the coach of the Upper Arlington Middle School hockey team. There was like a joint team between Jones and Hastings, and it was really a great experience. The families.
Hockey brought you here, and you couldn't escape.
Yeah, and that's really what's like gotten me whenever I've moved to different cities is like the hockey community.
Should I dare ask you, Red Wings or Blue Jackets?
I like them both, to be honest. I know a fair amount of people at the Blue Jackets organization, and I wasn't really a diehard Red Wings fan growing up. Like I grew up on the west side of Michigan, Kalamazoo, and the big city that we would go to was Chicago because it was a smidgen closer and much nicer than Detroit. And so it wasn't until college and and when I was a kid, my 12 to 18 years old, the Blackhawks had a popular goalie named Ed Belfour that I was like a big fan of because I grew up playing goalie. He was kind of entertaining. So anyways, in college, I became sort of a Red Wings fan because I moved to the east side of the state and they were doing well, but it wasn't like I went to Red Wings games or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Big time.
So we can accept your fandom in the Blue Jackets, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So when you think about your time here in UA, and I sent you this as a prep, whenever we do these interviews, we always ask folks, we kind of finish out the discussion with, what do you love about the community? What would you change?
So what I really love about the community, and this is the thing that I kind of learned with the middle school team, was that it's a really close-knit community, and the families were really, really supportive, and that's why we ended up moving here, because I was like, oh, this is a great neighborhood. So I do think that spirit of unity is present here in Arlington. I think people are very supportive of the community as a whole. There's a lot of like community pride. I think, like Michigan, maybe we rest on our laurels a little bit too much here in Arlington. But I still think that there's a good sense of unity, and that's probably my favorite thing.
What would you change?
Oh man.
Anything is open except for the podcast hosts.
Yeah.
First thing I would change is I would change the fact that there's not an ice rink in Arlington.
So, okay, got to stop you there for a second. Now, Darren has become somewhat obsessed with curling.
Oh yeah.
I will join forces with you if you add curling on with your
Sure.
ice rink.
Yeah,
We can
why
have
not?
a coalition of ice.
That's a really good idea, because people like that, and it's very easy, and you don't have to like train for it, and it's fun and casual, and you can do it recreationally. You could easily have like a curling lane at
By
an
the
ice
way,
rink.
my recollection is that Jackie and Mike and Holly and I beat you and your team at curling.
Yeah,
am I remembering that right?
Yes, there's a
Okay,
there's
just-
a Columbus curling
I just
club.
wanted to make I just wanted to make sure that was on the record.
Okay, so here's the deal. It's harder than it looks, but it is fun, and anyone can do it. And I had the first shot, and it was the most amazing thing ever. It was like Olympic-style curling. It went around, it hit it, and then Steve and Jackie's husband just like did all the stuff to just destroy everything, and I just lost it.
Yeah. It also helps that Mike's a firefighter and he was a wrestler. So like the curling thing for Mike was he was like totally, oh yeah, this is just shooting somebody's leg.
It was definitely agility and athleticism, and I was just really awesome with one shot, and then I fell apart. So yeah, Steve did beat me. I will own up to that. But if we had a curling rink here, we could
Not getting a
rematch.
curling rink. We don't. Here's the issue. In all seriousness, we just don't have space for it.
I know. We talked about this with the community center. Where
Yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe we could put an ice rink on the first floor, but the span across it wouldn't support much on the top.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So
we have a coalition here. When we get the ice rink, I'm in with you as long as we get curling on the side.
This needs to be one of the qualifying questions: is whether somebody's going to raise putting. Nobody else can come on the podcast who's going to say something that might get Darren going down the curling.
I do want to point out one thing, though. We could not share the ice on the curling because Steve and I learned that the curling rink is like bumpy on purpose. Did you know that?
I did. That's why I said we could have a separate like curling lane
So he knows
at the rink.
I think he's got credibility to make this happen because he knew this.
So you grew up in Michigan.
Yeah, I grew up in Kalamazoo.
Okay, all right. It's a cool town.
We had Western Michigan and Bell's Brewing. We had like as many ice rinks in that town. The whole county had maybe 150,000 people, and we had more ice rinks then 30 years ago than Columbus does now.
Wow.
And we had a bunch of lakes that would freeze that you could play on.
Yeah, and I get it. My younger one really wanted to play hockey. Played for a couple of years when he was kind of preschool age. Loved it, and we just couldn't make it happen. I mean, getting him up to Dublin to get on the ice, it's like, I'm sorry, I can't leave at 3:00.
Yeah.
Every afternoon, I do
Yeah.
have this thing called a job.
Yeah.
And so did my wife, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I get it for I get it for all the hockey families in town. It's tough.
But kudos to the UA varsity team. They've been to the Final Fours the past 2 years. That's a really big accomplishment.
Cool.
So we've agreed on the curling rink. We're scrapping the community center plans and adding the curling rink. I think that's the.
Do you have two people who want to do that, and that's it?
I'm not even sure I have two. He just went along with me so he could get his ice rink.
There's a lot of people that are up for it. I won't delve into your development plans, but I think the space is the limiting factor.
It is. No, I mean, we've been through this a fair amount because ice and a field house are the two things that come up consistently, and when you're a landlocked community, it's just really tough to do. We've even looked at, are there some things that we could do to acquire some land just outside the city boundaries, and we just couldn't ever figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
I know. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for
Special
being a
thanks
guest.
for bearing with our trap question, which you dodged artfully and respectfully.
I do appreciate your principles in refusing to answer our question there. That is a sign of a man of true
Integrity.
Integrity. That's the word that I'm looking for.
Thanks, guys.
So, see, that's the year you spent at Michigan that
Exactly,
gave you that
all
word
these big
integrity.
Yeah, exactly.
OU did not give me the big words. I'm sorry. So,
Yeah.
all right, listen, thanks for coming on, and thanks for doing everything you do with the community and doing what you do with the triathlon and helping out great organizations like Nationwide Children's and Flying Horse Farms. Flying Horse is an amazing place.
Yeah, it really is. It's a special place, and yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, go Bears.